What's going on, everybody? Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope you all are so excited to receive the best hour you have ever received in your entire life. Why? Because this hour has it all, baby. Hope, positivity, inspiration, motivation, empowerment, encouragement, the whole nine. So I hope you are excited. Get ready, pull up a chair, pull up a couple of shots, let your hair down, kick your shoes off, and catch the great energy that is in this room, because it is all dedicated for you, baby. Let's go. Woo!
Joseph Jaffy is not famous. Me, Tom Arnold, I am very famous. I absolutely like, because it's very true. Like, I hadn't freaking heard of you until I was sitting on a Friday night. This is how bad my life is. Listen, fucker, good luck. Good luck with your rebranding. Like anybody knew what the name was before. What was the name? Okay, who gives a shit? That's a good name, because it's got your name in it. You can pretend you're humble. You say, I'm not famous. And, which you aren't. So you're just, I mean, anyway, but I hope you get famous doing this. Good luck to you.
This is my best kind of show notes. We didn't touch one of them, not even one of them. I'm not sure which one is Paul Rudd and which one is Lane Green.
Final card here is the ultimate outcome.
Today is take your dog to work day.
Like Scooby-Doo.
Without further ado, his debut.
Sweet Caroline.
Everybody say hello to Sammy. Is it not good?
I'm just pausing so that you just are at the front of your screen.
I'm so enormously flattered.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of this.
No, this is a JAFFE. This is love.
I really enjoyed this. You did do your homework. You asked great questions.
I'm flattered. Thank you. You just made my day.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're
How
insane!
Did I do that?
You're insane.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Late Night Jaffy. It is Joseph Jaffy is not famous, and my guest tonight is the Chris Wallace, the very famous Chris Wallace. Maybe you've heard of him. He might have been a little shocked by that intro by Tom Arnold. He has never had alcohol in his entire life. He's never even had coffee in his life, and I saw him reaching out for a bottle of vodka after he was like, what have I gotten myself into? I'm not really sure. But let me tell you, Chris, I promise you no more surprises, or bad surprises, I suppose, or maybe some good surprises. Today is Broadway musical day, and that's why I've got my Lion King music in the background. It is time for us to celebrate, and I mean really, really celebrate the return to Broadway. So go and see a Broadway show if you're in New York City or traveling, if you are able during these crazy times, and celebrate the creators, right? Celebrate the true creatives. Well, I wanted to do something with you today. I wanted to do a little bit of an unboxing. I think many of you know that my wife started a business called Things I Love 203. Things I Love 203, and when she sends her email, I mean, email marketing works, right, Chris? I mean, it really does work, especially to your customers. So every time she sends an email, I end up purchasing something. A little bit of loyalty goes, I think, a long way. So I thought I would do a little bit of an unboxing for you. I mean, she is class, and I guess put the arse in class. But this is what you get. You get a beautiful envelope. I'm gonna open it up for you. I mean, look at this. You get a beautiful card. It says, "Thank you for your purchase. You've made a great choice. We hope you love it, Dory and Terry." Look at that. There is, I think there was a sticker that fell out as well. So excited. My invoice, unfortunately, I did pay full price. No free lunch. And then this is what I got. And I just want to open it very carefully. Look how beautifully it's wrapped. I mean, this is a mom and pop or or a wife and wife, two best friends starting this business together. I'm just going to pop it out as well. Look how beautifully it's wrapped. I mean, by the way, the shipping was expensive, although she did have to just walk up the stairs. But I bought this beautiful vase, this ornamental vase. It's like it's a handbag. It's a glass handbag vase, and I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it at the back, around about there, with the other 3D printed vase that you see over there. So just, giving a small business a little bit of love. Why not? Giving my wife a little bit of love as well, and make a purchase. Go check it out. Go to thingsilove203.com and find something for that special person. So that was my little unboxing, and I'm just going to keep on adding tchotchkes to my shelves. And by the way, if you want something featured on my shelf, you can send it to me too. My shelf is not just for me, it's for you as well. Toy Sweeney is watching. Now, I love this because Toy is my guest tomorrow. So what does this tell you? Queen Toy, she is doing her research. She is making sure that she knows what she's getting herself into. Toy, I will treat you like a queen tomorrow, like I will treat Mr. Chris Wallace, the third Chris, the third wise man, like a king as well. So Chris Matz, Chris West, Chris Wallace, Toy Sweeney, that is our lineup. And I'm hoping, we don't see her in the background yet, but I'm hoping our Queen Bee will be joining us as our creator performer a little bit later. And one more thing, we have a new correspondent today. We had Needy Tawari for a few weeks, but she is replaced with a very, very good friend of mine and the show. And you will see the reveal who it is if you didn't know already later. And then on Friday, we have a reunion show at the moment. Chris Burgrave, John Kutzier, and we're hoping Leslie Aim makes it as well. So opportunities for our previous guests to come back, to meet each other, to meet you, for you to meet them, for us to have a little town hall-like discussion. We'll do that every Friday at 12 noon. But right now, I'd like to talk to you about knowledge and beliefs, something that I know Chris Wallace wants to talk about. And he inspired me to actually write this for you. What's the difference between data, information, knowledge, and wisdom? Well, information is structured data which adds meaning to the data and gives it context and significance. Knowledge is the ability to use information strategically to achieve one's objectives. Wisdom is the capacity to choose objectives consistent with one's values within a larger social context. But I prefer this definition. What's the definition of data? The sun rises at 5:29 and sets at 6:31. What's the definition of information? The sun rises at 5:29 a.m. in the east and sets at 6:31 in the west. What's the definition of knowledge? If you ever get stuck in the woods, look at the direction of the sun over time, and that way you can figure out your bearings. Finally, what's the definition of wisdom? Don't ever get stuck in the woods. Tonight, we're going to focus on knowledge and juxtapose it with belief. What is immutable and what is not? How are the two interconnected? Helping me with this challenge is my guest, Christopher Wallace, as well as a friend and previous guest on the show, Seth Godin. Now, another way to think about it, and I believe it to be an art, is understanding what can change and what cannot. Specifically, how are beliefs formed, informed, and influenced? Sometimes change happens very slowly, almost too slowly for the naked eye to the untrained observer, and then it doesn't. In the blink of an eye, everything is forever changed. Nothing will ever be the same again. And yet the signs were always there, but were we paying attention? Did we recognize the changes for what they were and what they represented, or Did we turn a blind eye, sweep it under the rug, and pretend it didn't exist? I always think of the boiling frog syndrome and how it is ultimately responsible for the frog, well, croaking. It wasn't the water that did the toad in, but rather the frog's false sense of security. It was comfort itself. That's why I make it my business to leave my audiences feeling a little uncomfortable, because it is discomfort that is your built-in, foolproof, spidey sense of survival. And as far as knowledge versus belief is concerned, whereas the former is built upon I know, the latter is predicated on I think, I feel, and you would be surprised how powerful lack of knowledge can be in terms of accelerating both good and bad outcomes. So wisen up, and whatever you do, don't get stuck in the woods again. Well, Chris is smiling, which must mean that I didn't completely mess up the juxtaposition. And Toy says, love this. Well, Toy, I'm preparing your soliloquy even as we speak. And just before I bring Chris onto the show, just a reminder, when you see the QR code, like right now, if you point your phone to that QR code and follow the instructions, you'll get sent one Jaffy coin, one free Jaffy coin, which is worth about $6 at the moment. And the beautiful thing about this Jaffy coin is it is your entry ticket to those Zoom reunion shows, to audition shows, etc. What I'm building is an inclusive community where everybody gets to participate and everyone gets to benefit as well. So shine your phone on that QR code and get yourself a Jaffy coin, because it is a ticket. It is a ticket to connection. You know, it is a ticket to connectivity in of itself. But enough about QR codes. Let's talk about the man. Let's talk about the myth. Let's talk about the very famous Christopher Wallace. Now, Chris has found a way to turn middle child syndrome into a career. He uses his hard-learned diplomacy skills in his consulting work, where he helps companies improve the alignment between their marketing departments and their sales teams. Chris and his team at Interview act as the translators brands need to get all their people on message. He's a frequent author, publishing for outlets like Harvard Business Review and chief marketer. He is also a regular speaker at events and enjoys teaching MBA students. Maybe he can come and teach mine. The little time that remains goes toward his children's sporting pursuits, listening to live music, and an occasional round of golf. The man is busy. I am very happy that he found time to hang out with us. Mr. Chris Wallace, welcome to the show.
Joe, thanks so much for having me.
Now, I got to ask you off the bat. You said you were nervous. What were you nervous about?
Did I say nervous? I think maybe excited. I think that having looked at your body of work in the past and seen your past guests, I'm in good company. So I don't know if I'm famous, but I certainly am good company tonight. So,
well, you have very good cause to be nervous, because we actually went out and we did some sleuthing on your sordid past and background. And here are some of the what we call the fun facts about Mr. Chris Wallace. First of all, I have to ask if you are an imposter. I mean, the name tag says Christopher Wallace, president and co-founder of Interview. But I'm busy wondering if maybe this is the real Chris Wallace. I don't know if you follow English football, but if you know who Steven Gerrard is, Steven Gerrard, I think you look a little bit like Steven Gerrard. What do you think?
I'll take that. That doesn't look like a bad comparison. I will say that I get Jason Bateman a lot. So when I speak, I usually get Jason Bateman as my celebrity lookalike.
I see.
Which I'll also take.
I see Jason Bateman as well. But I'm assuming that that money laundering and embezzlement in the Ozarks is not something that you do on a regular basis.
Hopefully you didn't find that in your internet research you did about me. But
no,
if you keep digging, you might find it.
Well, and I did find out that this is not you either, right?
That is not, no.
That is most definitely not. So you were not moderating any debates. So we'll move on as well. Here is someone who you are not, but I know it's someone that you would like to be seated or pictured next to, and that is, of course, you are a big Foo Fighter fan. And it's amazing. You said you would trade it all to spend one day as Dave Grohl. Now, have you met him before, or you just want to be him?
I never have met him, but I will say that I've had the good fortune throughout my life and my career. I've met a lot of famous people, a lot of athletes, primarily, and I don't get nervous or starstruck or awestruck by meeting famous athletes, and I've met some good ones. But rock stars is a completely different story. I fall to pieces. So when I think about what I would do if I could trade places for one day, the talent and the career and the accolades that this gentleman has earned, about to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at the end of October. I'm just in awe of his career and over the last 30 years what he's done. And my wife and I love their music, so big Dave Grohl fan.
All right. So what else did we find out about you? Well, I think you've alluded to, you are a little bit of an open book. So don't worry. Nothing else is, no impersonations, no alter egos. Well, except maybe one more, Happy Gilmore, because you talk about trading it in. You started your career working in the golf industry, and none of your friends can understand why you left. I mean, this was like the most, perfect job.
I always used to say, early in my career, I had the best cocktail party job you could ever want. I worked in the golf industry and had a really interesting role, and found myself in a spot where I just wasn't happy, regardless of the fact that I was working in an industry that I loved and around a game that I love. I just wasn't happy doing it.
And you know what? Happiness is everything. I know we're going to get into this, and it's a fantastic topic, right? Which is, when talking about happiness, talking about happiness of employees, talk about how, I call it I called it once, I started writing a book, actually, my very first book, which I don't even know what happened to the manuscript. But it was basically called The Power Within. And I know there's a book called The Power Within, but I remember the subhead is because if you take the employee out the equation, there really is no equation. So why wouldn't they be the most knowledgeable? Why wouldn't they be, the so engaged and all in and kind of leaning in as opposed to dialing it in, etc. And we'll get there shortly. But what I wanted to do is get on this topic of knowledge versus belief, because and obviously there's a lot of context. Now, you provided 2 source articles. One was from Seth Godin, and Seth is amazing because this is the whole post, and I got like rabbit hole down it. He was saying this is the easy way to discern what would you need to see or learn to change your mind. And I was like, and then I was just thinking about what is actually movable and what isn't, because because to me a belief is something that can change. And yet, so I just said, you know what? I'm just going to shut up and I'm going to say exhibit 1 is this and exhibit 2 is that, why marketing must close the gap between knowledge and belief, which you wrote. So set this topic up, bring it home. And if you like, you can even reference the soliloquy, and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I just want to first point out, if you look at the date stamps on those, I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that there's aligned thinking, but I did not pilfer Seth's idea. We are we're definitely kindred spirits. I love looking at his, reading his works, and my team and I are all big fans of his. So when we saw that article posted earlier this year, we were all very energized by it. And when we think about the difference between knowledge and beliefs, and we really put it in the context of the work that people do day in and day out, most organizations spend a lot of time, effort, and energy finding ways to move their customers to take action. And the reality is, the way that they try to, for lack of a better phrase, equip their employees is really with a lot of information. And when we talk about the difference between knowledge and belief, we look at it as, information feeds knowledge. Information is funneled toward people. And the hope is that they take that information and they reach the point of they know something. And if they know something, they can take the facts, they can stitch them together. And the hope is that they will then tell a narrative with it. They will have a thought process, a talk track, as some people might say. But the reality is that's just not happening very frequently. And the work that we do and really trying to work with marketers is, it's not enough to get people to know who you are. You don't do that with your customers. You don't train your customers on who you are. You try to drive belief and you try to capture their attention, capture their imagination, capture their emotions. And most organizations just simply don't do the same things with their people that they do with their customers. So when we think about the difference between knowledge and belief, we look at it as, if you want to move somebody from point A to point B, facts alone aren't going to be the way to do that. You really need to get inside their head. To get somebody to belief, you really have to start to connect with them as a person, with their biases, with their perceptions. And I think you brought that up well in the soliloquy, this idea of their own perceptions, almost being stronger, whether they're rooted in fact or not. Their perceptions really drive so much of how they're going to act. So, we help organizations understand the difference between the two and really go for the belief system rather than just distributing more information.
So there are a couple of thoughts that come out of this, and and the one thing is, we're talking about the power of emotion, right? Of feeling, and we know that, right? When we look at the product, right? The functional benefit, what it does, how it works, the utility it delivers, but the essence of brand, everything from brand voice and through brand resonance, is this essence of a connection, of how it makes you feel, of a relationship that develops. And that seems to be, I think, to your point, absent at the employee level. And it just seems so obvious.
As somebody told me one time, one of our clients we were talking to, and he said, the phrase he used was, "You must feel like the person that discovered that chocolate and peanut butter go well together." And I really loved that line, because it highlighted for me that in business, you're always looking for white space, right? You're looking for something that's unsolved. You're looking for an opportunity. And my team and I, after working together for a number of years, we really looked at this and said, organizations, there are things that they're very good at, and the things that they're good at externally, a lot of times they just don't do internally. And we really try to focus on how to make sure that, when you talk about that idea of brand, even the word brand sort of evokes some people, they bristle at it because they don't really know what it means. And it's sort of ethereal. It's kind of out there, and they don't really know what it is. And it feels very, kind of touchy feely, so to speak. But really, brand is designed to be visceral, to draw an emotion, to draw on that connection. You want people to have that emotional attachment to the brands that they choose to do business with and spend their money on, day in and day out. And what we find is, people, we talk a lot about customer experience, and customer experience is having a moment right now with just exploding in growth and the consciousness that companies have around it. And we look at it and we say most organizations are concerned with what their customers would say about them. But we're finding most organizations not as concerned what their employees would say about them. And that's kind of the gap that we fill as we go in and we try to understand that visceral emotional reaction that the employees have toward the brand, not in a traditional employee engagement kind of way, but truly really get into their heads through the eyes of a customer. What do they think customers care about? Would they spend their own money on the products and services they represent? I'm really trying to understand if emotionally they're moved by the brand that they represent.
So I want to build on this idea of would they spend their own money on the product. I like that. I mean, you saw that I just spent my own money on a product, and I made a comment. I said there is no such thing as a free lunch. But when it comes to employee engagement, there should be a free lunch. I am blown away by how few companies actually provide, and I'm not talking about literally free lunch, unless you are a QSR. If you're a restaurant, etc., like, you should allow your employees to eat as much as they want and not and or give them the most ridiculous discount, but you don't see that. I remember buying my Audi, and I was on the influencer VIP program, and the salesperson told me that the discount I was receiving was greater than the discount he received as an employee. That's just insane. It's insane.
Well, I think, Joe, I think your point there, I think that the point to pull out of that is less about companies giving their employees perks and more about allowing, we talk a lot about, I said information drives knowledge. So facts and information are really the inputs to get to knowledge, but we believe the inputs to get to belief are experiences. And there's no substitute for experiences. There's no substitute for getting behind the wheel of that vehicle. There's no substitute if you're a customer of going into that Audi dealership and seeing the person drive away in a Honda or a Kia, right? That sends a serious message. That's not to say that they should be giving every one of their employees one of their vehicles, but if you really want somebody to represent it with passion, and to have that brand, again, that emotional, visceral part of the brand come through, that they advertise so much. Think about the advertising that they put out there and the money they spend to get that visceral connection with their customers. And if they're not pushing to get that with the people representing them, it just is a lost opportunity. And I won't bore people with stats and go on, but the opportunity for brands to be connecting through the human to human contact, it's still the overwhelming majority of how people make purchases, especially large purchases. It's through that human to human connection. They're looking for help. They're looking for advice. And that person is a major factor in the decision that they make in terms of what they buy. And if they're, one of the first things I always ask people when they go to an auto dealership is, how long have you been with the dealership? And the answer is always 18 months or 7 months, or I was at Buick GMC before, now I'm here. And there's always this sort of transient, there's no connection between the brand and the employees, the people who sell for them, but they want to connect with customers that way. It just seems like people are skipping a step.
So you've actually put together this very, and I love conversations like this one, because rather than even include this in the plug section at the end, this is part of this is the meat. This is the cool stuff. This is the secret sauce. You've put together the brand transfer study, and you're measuring and tracking. And I'll let you take over in terms of what it is and what it does and why you developed it.
Yeah, I think I'll tell a little backstory. I appreciate the background on it. The brand transfer study really was designed because we as a team, one of the interesting things about the team I work with is everybody on our team has sold before. And in many cases, we're career long, or I jokingly call myself a lifelong salesperson. So we've all been out there representing various major brands, and we've all worked for some really good ones. And we found ourselves as salespeople wondering, there's so many things that they're pushing out, so many products, so many messages, so many campaigns, and trying to keep it all straight and to, really represent each thing that's being brought to market with passion and effectiveness is really hard. And so what we did is we developed the brand transfer study. It's really built on the same principles that drive most, market research that brands are doing. They're going out and they're asking consumers what they think of them. Some people might call it voice of customer data, whatever the case may be. They're assessing what do customers want, what do they think of the brand that they're delivering, and how do they feel about the competitors. And we looked at that and said, if you want to know what your customers think of your brand and where you're strong, where you're weak, where you're falling short, where you're excelling, we looked at it and said, if you want to know what your customers think, why would you not want to know what the people who talk to your customers think? And again, I want to be very clear and say this. I tell every client, every prospect this. We don't care what they know. We literally don't care. There are a lot of companies that make a lot of money sending quizzes out to employees and having employees take quizzes at the end of trainings and things like that. And that's all well and good. And somebody can come back and say, well, they know the answer. Somebody did their job. But we've looked at it and said, that's only part of the equation. That's knowledge. Belief is the big gap that most brands can't fill. So we look at it and we say, we don't care what they know. Good luck with that. Try to get that and try to give them a perfect score on their quiz. We want to know what they think. We want to know what they feel. We talk about belief, confidence, and pride. And we believe with what we've developed with the brand transfer study, we can come back to an organization, to a marketing department and say, you just launched this product. You are telling us that the product does this, does these things, and you excel in these places. But your people don't think your customers care about that. And they actually think you excel here. They're not talking about the warranty. They're not talking about the variety. They're not, whatever the things are that you think make your product great, we're able to measure whether or not the people who represent you think the same way you do. It's the classic game of telephone. We feel like we've developed for the modern corporate brand, we've developed something that can measure what's falling out from point A to point B in that game of telephone.
So I'm going to ask you the question that I generally cringe when I get asked all the time, because it just annoys me. So I hope I'm not going to annoy you. In fact, I'm sure I won't, which is everybody wants to know who's doing it well, who's doing a great job at this.
Well, so I do get asked that frequently, and here's my answer. Okay, so I hope
I wasn't annoying you, by the way.
No. I'm used to getting asked that, but hopefully, like any good guest, I have a repertoire of answers because it really depends on the setting. But my answer is going to be who's doing it well. I'm going to say that I'm going to point to a friend and people we've gotten to know over the years, not a client, but some friends that we've collaborated with north of the border up in Canada. The folks at Rogers up in Canada, which is the largest cable and wireless company in Canada, and soon to get much bigger through an acquisition. And the folks at Rogers have institutionalized, now I'm going to talk about their people first before I talk about their customers. They have institutionalized this idea of, for lack of a better phrase, sort of a servant leadership mentality, where the corporate team has this feedback loop with their front lines. And they have a team and a program, a whole department called Voice of the Front Lines. And they are gathering what we call frontline insights. We're kind of putting this name to, marketing intelligence that's gathered from inside the organization. We're calling frontline insights. And they have structured this and codified it. And they have a team that is listening nonstop to their frontline teams on how they feel about the products and services they represent, where they're having trouble. And they sort of take an on-demand, audience-centric approach to helping support their teams. It comes down to one simple thing: they listen. They have structured a listening mechanism to hear their people and to respond to them, rather than take the approach of gospel comes from corporate, we're going to push it down, we're going to expect everybody to say the same thing. That's not how you get the modern day, I would say employee, but the modern day person at all, whether it's in their work life or their private life, to comply with anything. It has to be a dialogue. There has to be understanding. There has to be empathy. And they've institutionalized empathy for their frontline teams in the form of listening and responding. And they're the gold standard that we've seen in terms of people that are really putting their money where their mouth is and committing to their frontline teams.
I mean, I absolutely love that as well. I mean, I know obviously voice of the customer, but voice of the front line, and you can incentivize that, and you can reward that, and you can recognize that, and you can celebrate. What did you hear? And I heard this the other day. I've just been itching to share it, that the word listen and silent are actually just anagrams of one another. And I was just like, that is just perfect, right? Listen and silent have the same letters, but in a different order. And to actually teach and empower that frontline staff to be actively listening. It's like a human to human suggestion box. That's what it is.
It's so true. And we have data. I'm going to share one stat that we did some research with. We did a survey of 1,200 frontline employees, and we asked them, when it comes time to represent, when it comes time to stand in front of a customer and represent your products and your brand, where do you look inside your organization for support to be able to tell that story effectively? And we gave them six options inside their company: training, their own leaders, internal communications, so on and so forth. And of the six options that we gave them, their marketing department was 5th out of 6. So what that told us was, most organizations are in these silos. But when it comes time to really make that emotional connection between the brand, most marketers are very externally focused, and understandably so. They've got to drive demand and things like that. But demand is no good if the people show up expecting one thing and what they get is a completely different story altogether. So, what we learned by that bit of research is marketers need to lean in. We use that as sort of a rallying cry for marketers to say, how can you be fifth out of six in terms of the sources that people are looking to help them understand how to tell your brand story? You're the architects of the brand. You should be right up there near the top. So marketers leaning in and taking a more active role inside the organization, we think is a great way to really build the brand in reverse, building it from the inside out.
And I'm shocked by that stat, because I would have put the marketing department at 6 out of 6. So, I'm surprised. I'm surprised, seriously, that it was what was 6.
I don't remember off the top of my head, to be honest. But it
was probably the IT department. Just kidding. Just kidding. So I always go out and I try and find quotes, and I actually found 2 quotes for you that I think speak to this conversation. And it's been funny, right? Because I had Chris, and Chris Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I first made sure that I sourced all quotes from Chris's as well. So all I'm going to tell you is this quote comes from a Chris. And I think it's quite an interesting one. Knowledge not shared remains unknown. And so it just made me think of hoarding information, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and not liberating it and freeing it up. And I think now to this frontline staff that either don't have access to the knowledge or don't know where to find the knowledge, and marketing sitting in their ivory towers, hoarding all of this knowledge, all dressed up and nowhere to go. How do you interpret this particular quote?
So I'm going to flip that on its head, and I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this. I'm going to sort of add my twist to it. I think that knowledge that's that's coming at people too fast and too furious and too great a volume can become noise, right? I think that you think about it, we're inundated with information, we're inundated with facts in our daily lives, and we look at most corporate organizations, and there's no shortage of facts, and there's really no shortage of the pursuit of knowledge. It really is. It comes in the form of just a lot of information. It's a tsunami. It's a tidal wave. People are getting buried in information. It's the sorting that out and helping people make sense of it. It truly is the difference between noise and music like Dave Grohl's, who we talked about earlier. It's putting loud drums and loud guitar riffs into some sort of an arrangement that people can understand, and it sounds like music. Most organizations struggle to do that for their people. It really is, we're going to give you all the individual pieces and expect you to connect all those dots. So I think it was knowledge unshared remains unknown. I think of it as, knowledge in too great of a quantity or in too big a volume, just becomes noise.
Right. And so, like always, there's always a beautiful duality, quantity and quality. I always sometimes talk about the funnel, right? There's also 2 types of funnels, right? There's the funnel that moves from a lot to a little, right? That moves it down, right? From noise to signal. And then there's filtration as a funnel. There's the ability to purify or convert or transform. And I think the one thing that I took away from you is that knowledge is lowered down on that hierarchy. You got to move it up. You got to move it up. I use the data, information, knowledge, wisdom. What I love is how you've brought in experiences and beliefs, and you're just basically reworking the brand pyramid, but internally, and that's just terrific. Toy had a comment which I think is just spot on. She said, "I'm not shocked about that. Employees are not being reminded of the brand and what it stands for. They can't live it if they don't lean in." And that isn't just about giving them guidelines, guardrails, and scripts to have to read.
Yeah, I'm going to be. So I was a little dodgy with your question about who's doing it well, and I gave you my perspective on a company that I've seen, some of the internal workings, and I know how they're doing it well internally. But you look externally, and a brand that I'll throw out is Patagonia. You want to talk about a brand that truly people that live that brand, they hire for brand. They the values and things like that they espouse as a brand. One of the core things being conservationism and things like that. They it's just woven into the fabric of, no pun intended, of every single thing that they do, every person that they hire. So I think they're a brand that does an extremely good job of just being authentically who they are, and they attract certain people to their organization as a result. And they certainly have a fiercely loyal employee following. You want to talk about belief, right? They're connecting with the employee's belief system through their brand. And then in turn, beliefs are what's going to fuel actions. Knowledge doesn't fuel actions. You think about, we can talk about the day-to-day corporate world, but let's take it outside to things like politics or music or sports. And you think about what drives people to spend money or to buy that jersey or to go in and vote for somebody. It's not always just a show of facts. It's how people talk. It's how they connect with values. It's how they make that emotional connection. If you want to move people, you can't just share a bunch of facts and expect that they're going to put them all together and end up on your side, right? There has to be a narrative. There has to be storytelling that's wrapped around it. So, that's where we see there being a big opportunity.
No question. Now here, I found another quote for you. And this quote speaks to what you're speaking to. Technology doesn't solve human problems. Humans solve human problems. And I actually heard this person say this today, by the way.
Wow.
And this is,
It's not a Chris.
No, it isn't. It's Brian Fanzo. And Fanzo was in a room on Clubhouse. And I just heard him actually say this. And I just jotted it down and turned it into a quote. But I think it speaks exactly to what you're saying. And by the way, I'll tell you why I actually even gave this quote. Besides the fact it was super relevant to what we're discussing, Fanzo is our new Wednesday wellness correspondent. And this is his intro video, his first segment. He will be, Tom Morris is on Thursday, Gregarious is on Monday, Jory Desjardins on Tuesday, Fanzo is on Wednesday, and this is his first submission.
What's up, friends? My name is Brian Fanzo, founder of iSocialFans. I am a digital futurist, a keynote speaker. I am a proud girl dad of 3 little girls, and I am ADHD superpowered. I was diagnosed ADHD at 31. I am now 40 years old, and so I am a very loud and proud, advocate for mental health, as well as a lot of other things that I'm passionate about. And for me, the conversation around mental health and really removing the stigma and having these conversations has a lot to do with technology, because I know that might be something many others were thinking. And for me, my goal as a futurist is to help audiences, brands, and those that I work with find the harmony between technology and humanity. And I think that's the beauty of technologies like blockchain, where we're going to see that empower transparency. But it also requires us to shift our mindset and how we look at certain things, or even the things that we have conversations around today. And I think, we've all learned this lesson, especially over the last 24 months, that, my shirt kind of does the talking for us, that we are all human and that we all have our own vulnerabilities. So it doesn't matter that if maybe you don't have ADHD, but you are struggling with something. And so for me, one of the things that's really freeing and the mindset shift that I like to focus on is, what do we do to help us turn our vulnerabilities into our superpowers? And how can each one of us take on this role, not only as a mental health advocate, but to really make the world a more empathetic place? So that might be getting over your fear of public speaking or leveraging video to tell your stories. And so I'm excited to be a part of these segments here to kind of bring you some of that insight, as well as anything and everything that I can do to help raise awareness and drive maybe just a mindset shift on where this all goes, because we might be the most connected generation ever, yet we're probably the most alone as well. And I think part of that change means we need to move from judging to being more empathetic. And we need to be, really shifting our narrative from trying to make the world more empathetic to letting the world be more empathetic towards us. And so I'm going to leave you guys kind of with the idea that, if you really want to stand out and make a difference today, it's pretty simple, in my opinion. Show you care. Go above and beyond to let those around you, those that impact you, maybe your favorite content creator or maybe someone that you're connected with online, just let them know that you appreciate them, that you care about them, and you'd be amazed how far that goes. So till next time, cheers, my friends.
That's Fanzo. So he is going to be sharing information, dropping the knowledge. Maybe I should say dropping the beliefs every Wednesday. Chris, any thoughts on that intro?
I'm not sure how I follow that. To be honest with you, I think that listen. I think that what Brian had to say is tremendous, and I love this idea. I mean, we're huge believers in human-to-human contact. In terms of we talk about how. And again, I keep putting this back in the context of brands, but there is a humanity and an empathy that has to be built into brands. And the people who work for a company, who wear that logo on their chest or on their hat or wherever, they have an opportunity to represent that brand and be the face of that brand in every single interaction. It's a big opportunity. It's a big responsibility, and it's an opportunity that organizations can't afford to waste. But the reality is, we look at it, we have data that shows that when consumers go to make a major purchase, approximately 7 out of 10 of those purchases are heavily influenced by the individual, the human that they are interacting with. And we know that an overwhelming majority of the investment that organizations are making right now is digital. And it's all about digital. It's all about how can we drive, cost savings and efficiencies and customer self-service and all those things. They're definitely important, but I just don't see where. And we have an ongoing dialogue with a friend and mentor of ours, a gentleman named Dr. Frank Cespedes, who's a professor at Harvard Business School, and he keeps talking about e-commerce this and the growth of e-commerce that, and brick and mortar's dead, and face-to-face is dead. And he keeps coming back to, no matter how many times people try to kill it or how many times the internet tries to kill it, human-to-human contact still wins out over everything else. So we think that the digital investments are important, but those human connections are where the real opportunity is.
It's a beautiful, beautiful way to end. And I think there's. It's a bit of a mic drop or a rim shot moment. Chris, I'm going to ask you to put your feet up, sit back, relax. I would say pull up get yourself a shot or a cup of coffee, but I won't. I'll just say have a swig on that water. And as I introduce Poetic Jewel, and then we'll bring you back for the last 4 or 5 minutes. It's been an absolute pleasure spending time with you. And for those of you that want to follow Chris, not Christopher, but today, Chris Wallace, IVG on Twitter. And you can find him on Instagram. And most importantly as well, the LinkedIn, of course, but the Interview Group is his company. And not only can you find out more about what they do, but this wonderful brand transfer study. So, Chris, we'll see you in a few.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Joe.
Yeah, that was great. And now it's time to bring on the jewel herself, Queen Bee, the Queen Bee. We're going to bring her on, and I'm so glad we were able to. She's going to have to tell me exactly what was going on in the background. I'm thinking, what was going on, but it doesn't matter. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Friends call her Poetic or Misha. She's been writing for years. Over the past few years, she's gained great experience as a radio hostess on Blog Talk Radio. Wow, that brings back memories. And has been featured on several podcasts, but now has the pleasure of being on this show. She's available for bookings, hostings, and features as she strives to drop one jewel at a time. She's not really big on social media these days. But she is focusing on nice streaming shows. Welcome to the show, Poetic Jewel.
Hi, Joseph. How are you?
I'm all the better to see you. And I am going to, as I often do at this point, fade into black and give you the full screen like so, and let you introduce yourself and perform. And then I'll come back and we'll hang out a little bit.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you having me on your show. My name, as we already stated, I am Poetic Jewel. My friends call me Misha. You can reach me on Instagram at poeticjewel.misha. You can also find me on Facebook at PoeticJewels. And my email address is jewelspoetic, JEWELSPOETIC @gmail.com. Now, I dug in the crates for this poem here. I was looking for inspiration. I'm like, what is it that I'm feeling tonight? You know how we do as artists. We have to go with what we feel. So again, I dug in the crates, and this one is called The Narrator. Now, I'm going to get right into it. Feeling a little inspired, but no words come to mind besides the phrases, it is what it is, and things change with time. I'd like to be angry, but I think we're finally on the same page. You just read the book at night while I read it during the day. I skipped a few of the chapters. You read the last page. My anxiety intensifies as the plot is underway. Grief-stricken as it thickens, I believed in their love, the anticipation of what it would be and all that it once was. I skipped a few of the chapters, thought I had it all figured out, while you sat there silently knowing all along with that cigarette in your mouth. I could have shed a tear, but I think I knew it too, just made it a little more interesting believing that it was true. As I schemed back through the chapters, pages, for what I may have missed back in chapters 20, paragraphs 11 and 12, so much had happened then. So many wrongs she couldn't right, but I believe they make it through. Maybe I didn't really, but you said you believed it too. What you didn't say was that you knew the ending long ago. That paragraph 13, that summer, he was lost on a winding road. Tragically, his strategy involved him and him alone. Eventually, by winter, he found his way home. He seemed like the same person, but something was different then. He explained to his love that he had made a friend. The tables have turned. The words are unclear. The love is now a blur. What started out as him and her is now him, her, and her. The plot thickens. Had everything changed? Deeply growing in love all by herself. Nothing is the same. Was infatuation the game? Was the gaming ground her heart? I've lost the last pages. Our love has fallen apart. How will the story end? Am I the last to know?
A little bit of silence sometimes is a good thing, but now
So many unanswered questions. So many unanswered questions. Shall we reap what we've sowed? We don't want more than 4 seconds of silence. It was a glitch. I glitched. I'll accept the glitch there, but yeah, I do. I love that poem, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. We had a lot of glitching going on before I actually got on air tonight. I wasn't as prepared as I would have liked to have been. However, I'm glad to be here. Good energy, and I appreciate you having me.
Well, listen, now I'll give you the applause.
Thank you so much.
You see, I thought maybe when there was that nice silence there, and you got some applause as well from Toy, and then I was like, wait a second, are you not finished? Was the 4 seconds of silence? And I was like, damn. But you know what I mean. The beautiful thing about it is this is life, right? This is life. Life is not perfect. Life is not predictable. There are technical issues. I mean, for me to even have one show where there isn't some kind of issue, it wouldn't be part of the experience.
And it makes it so exciting. I'm sorry. It makes it so exciting. Like when I was doing blog talk, the glitches, that those last minutes, the running around trying to just get it together. And then when it all comes together at the end, it's like the biggest rush of like serotonin. You just can't even believe it. So yeah, I'm not really, we don't want the 4-minute breaks. You know how they say in radio, we don't want that 4 seconds. 4 seconds is just absolutely too much. Sometimes it happens, but I like to, when I'm able to clean it up a little bit at the end, it makes it feel good. So I just am who I am. I have been, again, writing poetry now for many years. It's not often that you don't glitch. It's just, how you clean it up. That's the part that really matters.
I also, by the way, love the fact that you refer to it as a glitch. My kids all the time are referring to glitches in terms of like a little bit of an internet interruption when they're playing a game, where the smoothness of the game now is interrupted, and they have to adjust and be able to hope that a goal doesn't get scored against them. They have to recover. The thing about the glitch is the recovery. Chris, you could probably talk to that as well. What is the corporate version or the CX version of glitches and recovery? Because I think that it's a universal thought, right?
Yeah, it's funny actually. The latest blog post that we shared, and I did a video for it. We talked about launches. So launches in the corporate world, and when you're launching a new product or a new service, and how it never goes as planned. And we talked about how having that dialogue, that feedback loop with your frontline teams makes you so much more nimble and allows you to be able to react and recover, so to speak. So the glitches are the plans that are put out and the spreadsheets that tell you how much money you're going to make if things go successfully, and they never go according to plan. But the people you need to actually get things done are the ones you need to be listening to, and those are the people who actually are out there serving your customers.
Absolutely, Chris. Absolutely. I am not going to be able to hang out with you guys until the end of the show. I'm so grateful for you having me, Chris. This topic is amazing. I have been listening in. I've been in and out, but I am listening. I'm paying attention, and I will be tuning in more often to check you guys out. Joseph, again, I thank you for having me. This was exciting. Your show is awesome, and you guys have a great evening.
Well, just before you leave us, I have to tell you that you are well. First of all, thank you for that beautiful endorsement. If anyone wants to subscribe to the show's channel, all they have to do is go to bit.ly/subscribe to the show. Nothing would make me happier in the world than for people to subscribe to the show and continue supporting the show. But I just wanted to leave you with a thought, Poetic Jewel. You talk about dropping jewels, and I think you're a natural. In fact, your quote is, "You strive to drop one jewel at a time." This is the jewel you dropped. And I'm a marketer, and I'm a writer, and I'm an author, and this idea of glitch and recover. That's a very strong. I could write an entire book on that topic. So you are a natural marketer. Glitch, which is technology, Chris. Recover, which is humanity. Make sure all royalties are sent to Poetic Jewel, because that was a jewel.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, this was wonderful. Toy has been commenting up a frenzy. You see, Toy, it is infectious, the power of live, where people can not only comment, but they can be a part of the show. Someone who's been part of the show for a while now, he always comments on my creator and my guest. What did Chuck Norris have to say about you guys?
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go. He will not be coming after you. I will be back tomorrow night at 9. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Poetic.
Thank you, Joe. It's been great.
Bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffy. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.